Do you like olive wood? If you do, then let me introduce you to this new olive wood handle series by Maiden. If you haven't already, please consider supporting the channel by hitting that like and subscribe button. Now, quick disclaimer, I'm actually pretty excited to say this. This is our very first sponsored video of the channel, and our sponsor today is none other than Maiden. If you guys have not heard of Maiden before, Maiden is a direct-to-consumer cookware company, and they make amazing cookware. Their cookware is so well made that there are several 3 Michelin star restaurants that actually use them in their professional kitchen. And most notably, it will be Chicago's Alinea. So thank you, Maiden, for sponsoring our video today. They reached out to me to see whether or not I want to collaborate and introduce to you guys this new olive wood handle series of knives. And here we are. So let's go ahead and dig in. For those of you guys who have followed me for a while, you guys know that I have reviewed both the Maiden chef knife and the Santoku, and I've said that the Maiden Santoku is very quickly becoming one of my favorite knives. Since we've reviewed these knives before, I want to talk more about the maintenance and how these knives held up in the past year that I've had them, and also introduce you guys to this pretty awesome handle. First, let's take a look at the specs of these knives. All of these knives are made with a bolster-free full tang construction. Now, not having a bolster makes sharpening so much easier, because whenever you have a bolster on your knives, it tends to develop a high spot because you can't really sharpen that portion of it because the bolster gets in the way. So not having a bolster makes sharpening so much easier. And these knives are also forged from one piece of steel. That means that they don't forge the blade and then weld the handles on afterwards. And this full tang construction leads down to this brand new olive wood handle. And I gotta tell you, this olive wood handle is pretty legit. When I first opened the box, this handle actually reminds me of the Miyabi birchwood handle. Man, I gotta tell you, this olive wood looks really classy and very luxurious. Now, I'm gonna go ahead and default to their website for the blade lengths of all of these knives. But we're going to talk about the specs that you're not going to find on their website. For example, the blade height, the spine thickness, and also the thickness right behind the edge. So let's go ahead and start with the chef knife. The chef knife is about 50.5 millimeters tall right at the heel, which gives you plenty of knuckle clearance, as you can see. And then the spine thickness right at the heel is about 2.25 millimeters thick. And then right behind the edge, it is 0.3 millimeters thick, which means it is very nice and thin. Next, let's go ahead and take a look at the Santoku. So the Santoku is only 45 millimeters tall right at the heel. And like I said in my other video, I wish that the Santoku was as tall as the chef knife, but it's not. And despite the height, I still really enjoy using the knife because of the profile and how thin the knife is. Now, talking about a thin knife. This knife is 2.5 millimeters thick right here on the spine at the heel. And right behind the edge for this one, or at least this olive wood handle one, is almost 0.4 millimeters thick right behind the edge, which is just a little bit thicker than my red handle one. So yeah, looking at it, I can see that it is just a hair thicker than my red handle one. Lastly, let's go ahead and talk about the steel that this knife is made out of. This knife is made out of nitrogen-treated German steel. And German steel is X50 CRMOV15 steel. And all these knives are heat-treated to about 58 to 60 Rockwell hardness. So from my past experience with these knives, the edge retention on these are decent and the maintenance on these are a breeze. The edge can be easily honed, and when the time actually comes, the steel is also extremely easy to sharpen. Next, let's go ahead and move on to the fit and finish. Let's go ahead and check these knives for straightness. Chef knife looks nice and straight. Santoku is nice and straight. The blades finish are nice and even and consistent. Let's check this chef knife real quick. Bolster's nice and smooth and polished. Sanding and polishing on the finish on the knife, on the blade itself, is very even. Next, let's go ahead and take a look at this handle. The handle feels really comfortable in the hands. There are no hard corners or edges. It is a little slightly on the smaller side, so for those of you guys who have smaller hands, this might be a really good choice for you. And I gotta tell you, this olive wood is fitted really well. There are no visible gaps or glue marks. Yeah, so it's fitted very nice and tight. There's no wiggle or anything. It's not, of course, it's not loose. And man, it is so smooth to the touch. If you guys don't know much about olive wood is a very prized after wood for a lot of woodworkers because it is a hardwood with very high density and a very fine grain texture. And with both of those characteristics, I guess, it can create a very, very nice finish whenever you sand it up to a high grit. And it just creates this really, really nice, smooth finish on it. Yeah, this is really nice. Now, the spine and choil on all of these knives are not crowned or rounded. The spine is a little bit on the harsher side. It is a little bit sharp, but the choil is not bad at all. And like I've said in many of my previous videos, it's a very easy fix. You guys can find a mod/hack video in one of my videos, but I'm not going to link it to this video because this is a sponsored video. So now let's go ahead and move on to the grind and profile of the knife. So the grind on both of these knives are very nice and thin. Like I said, my red handle Santoku is a little bit thinner than this olive wood handle Santoku. The chef knife is about the same as my black handle chef knife, but they are both very even, gradual, and very thin. I'll grab a different angle so you guys can see this. Now let's talk about the profile of the knife. So as you guys have heard me say before, on these maiden knives, they have a very, very traditional German profile. So it is very belly heavy with a very, very curvy profile. So for those of you guys who love raw cuts, this will be a really, really good knife for you guys. Now let's go ahead and talk about the Santoku's profile. The Santoku's profile is more in line with a traditional Santoku's profile. So it's a little bit more flat, but it has a good compromise. So the flat profile allows for very good chop and push cuts. But it is also not so flat. They included a bit of a curve in the front that allows you to do some rock cuts if you need to. So that's why in my previous video I said that the Santoku, this profile is freaking awesome. I love the profile of the Santoku. And that's why I said it's very quickly becoming one of my favorite knives. Now, speaking of profiles and cutting and things like that, let's go ahead and move on to the cut test. Okay, so as you guys know, both of these knives perform really well in my previous videos, and I'm really just kind of doing cut tests just for entertainment purpose. I'm actually prepping some stuff for dinner. I think I'm going to probably make a ragu or something. I'm not sure yet. So I have some carrots here. So today I'm going to be using just a chef knife. Let's see. I tried to do some push cuts with a chef knife, but I gotta tell you, the rock cuts on this guy is pretty awesome. Push cut wise, not as good because the profile of the knife is just not designed for that. But once you start doing these rock cuts, it's pretty awesome. No wedging whatsoever, cutting very cleanly through the carrots. And another thing I really want to mention to you guys is that Maiden has an amazing customer service. I had an issue with a cutting board in the past, and I gotta tell you, I messaged them, sent them some pictures, and said, hey, I'm having some issues with this cutting board. Can you guys help me out with it? And they saw the pictures. They're just like, hey, you know what? This is covered under our warranty. No questions asked. And they just sent me a brand new cutting board. So I gotta tell you, like, they have a freaking fantastic customer service team. So that is also one thing why I like their brand so much, because a brand is really nothing without their customer service, right? Because a brand is really as good as their customer service is going to be. I don't care how good of a product you make, if there's no good customer service behind it, your brand is eventually going to fail, right? Because your customer relation is going to start falling apart, yada, yada, yada. Anyway, next thing we're going to try to cut up some parsley and get some real good rock cuts in. And I gotta tell you, man, that rock cut feels so nice on this knife. This handle is extremely comfortable. No hard spots, like I said. And even though the spine is a little bit on the sharper side, it's not bothering me so far. Yeah, I like this new olive wood handle a lot. Alright, as you guys can see from the cut test, it performs just as expected. As you guys have seen in my previous videos, the knife performs really, really well. And I gotta tell you, I'm really digging this new olive wood handle. Man, like, it's pretty freaking sweet. A wood handle, like, really, especially nowadays, a wood handle really sets a knife apart from its competitors, because most of the time nowadays you see plastic handles or resin type handles on most of the knives. So having a true wood handle really gives it that really luxurious and classy feel. So yeah, I like this handle quite a bit. So if you guys are wanting to grab one of these olive wood handle series knives, I will link everything down below so you guys can sign up for the newsletter, because this series is not available yet. It's going to be dropping soon. So sign up for the newsletter and you get notified, and that way you don't miss out, because I gotta tell you, some of their special edition knives sell out really, really quickly. Yeah. So I'm pretty excited to get one of these before you guys do. So anyhow, I hope you guys liked the video. If you guys do like the video, please hit that like and subscribe button. It will mean the world to me. It'll help me support all of this madness. And I will see you guys next week. Bye.